Hello. This is one of a series of videos highlighting the changes to the laws that are effective in September 2017. I'm Tournament Director Doug Grove. With me is Tournament Director Matt Coltnow, who's also a member of the ACBL Laws Commission. This video discusses Law 31, a bid out of rotation. This is one of several laws that the proper adjudication requires the TD to understand the new concept of comparable call in Law 23. Please be sure to view those videos on that law. Here we are going to talk about the rectification changes that are built into Law 31. Some of these changes depend upon whether or not a player has a comparable call available. So the law is organized into 31A, B, and C, and we're going to treat each of those in turn. 31A describes the situation of a bid out of rotation when it is right-hand opponent's turn to call. So please discuss the rectifications that occur with or without comparable calls in this situation.
As in the old laws, if your right-hand opponent passes, then you simply repeat your bid and there's no rectification, as if the auction had happened in the proper order to begin with. But when RHO makes any legal bid, double, or redouble, the offender may make any legal call, and the rectifications depend on whether this is a comparable call. As you might guess, if the call is comparable, there is no further rectification, and the auction simply continues. If it is not a comparable call, offender's partner must pass at his next turn. Note that even when a comparable call is not selected by the offender, there are no circumstances when partners barred the whole time. This is, again, part of the move in the direction of rectifications that lead to normal rather than abnormal bridge results.
So you're saying there are two things that the TD now has to be aware of. One, determining whether a comparable call applies, and two, being aware that even if it doesn't, the rectifications are not as harsh as they once were. Exactly.
Offender's partner will only be barred for one turn compared to the old laws when it was the entire auction.
Now we're moving on to Section 31B, which is the part of this law that speaks to the bid out of rotation at partner's turn to call. As you did with the right-hand opponent's turn to call, can you talk about the rectifications under the new law, specifically as reference to whether a comparable call applies?
Right. Remember, what's interesting about a bid out of turn at partner's turn or at left-hand opponent's turn is that the person who will be able to make the comparable call won't be able to make it before partner has already had a turn in this auction. That means we have to consider what choices are available to the partner. The law doesn't restrict him per se, but it does say that he cannot use the unauthorized information contained in this call that was canceled and withdrawn. Other than that, at his first turn, partner's allowed to choose any legal call. When it comes around to the person who bid out of rotation, he'll be able to make any comparable call without rectification. If he chooses a call that's not considered comparable, then his partner will be barred for one turn.
So even if the call is not comparable, the rectification is not as severe as it once was?
Exactly. Under the previous laws, partner would have been barred the entire auction, including the first turn, and certainly at any subsequent turn. The new laws are designed to have rectifications that don't distort the results quite so much.
If a call is not comparable, are there other laws by reference that may apply that the TD still has to be aware of?
Beyond the auction rectification of barring partner for one round, laws that could apply include 16 about unauthorized information, 26, which has to do with lead restrictions if our side ends up defending, and 72C, which has to do with potential damage to the opponents when one member of a partnership is barred from bidding.
Okay. And then one last clarification. If in the middle of an auction, the call out of rotation is at left-hand opponent's turn to call, this law really doesn't apply. What does?
This law doesn't apply because calling at your left-hand opponent's turn in the middle of an auction is kind of like bidding twice in a row. Law 25, which has to do with changes of call, is what applies.
Okay, thank you.